I just had an atrocious experience with the bank. You see, my home was hit by a tornado, and so I was told that the insurance check is coming, and I figured that was going to be a little slow because they're letting go of a whole bunch of money. And so I was right. It took a while for the check to get there. But once the check got to me, then there was also this turnaround time that you actually have to send it to your mortgage company so that you don't just walk away with all the cash. So you send it to your mortgage company, then I figured they were going to hold on to it for a little while as well because it's a whole lot of money. And so then it finally makes its way back to me and into my bank account so I can begin to hire contractors to make some repairs on the house. Well, I figured that the bank would want to hold on to it because it was a whole lot of money, but my goodness. So I don't want to tell you how much is in there, but they put a whole bunch in the account, and then they approved me for $3,000 to put a roof on the house. And one contractor has stated at least $14,000 to put a roof on. And so I'm approved for $3,000. And so I have to get on the phone and fight with these cats about this garbage so that they can hold on to your money or hold on to my money and lend it out at 10 times as much. That irks me. And I just wanted to mention all that before I start talking about Matt Dillahunty. You've probably heard that maybe a debate with him and Jordan Peterson or him and Dinesh D'Souza. And so Matt would declare himself as an agnostic or a skeptical empiricist. And that's actually quite humorous. And the reason that's so humorous is that skeptical empiricism is already known to be self-refuting. Let me just back it up for you and explain it. Matt has stated openly, he's like, I'm not certain of anything. I believe that you can't be certain of anything, or can you really be certain of anything? And he doesn't think so. He said, I've given up certainty. That's self-refuting. That is not a foundational proposition. You can't really stand on that because if you weren't certain of anything, you can't really be certain of your statement, and so you wouldn't even postulate it as a statement. And he's really certain of himself or he wouldn't be in a debate. And so you need to begin to understand that agnosticism is not really a belief system in and of itself because human beings don't work like that. Human beings work from a proposition system. I believe this statement or this proposition is true, and I operate from that. But if I find out there's a crack in it or a flaw in it, and I find out it's not true, I eject it and get rid of it. That's the way human beings work. And so atheists actually don't believe in God. They don't at all. But in so many debates, that's a really weak position, as a lot of Christians have pointed out. And so the agnostics are like, we kind of fade and get away from I'm mad at God or I don't believe in God to I don't know. But that's where things get really, really interesting, because to say I don't know or I'm not certain or you can't really be certain about anything is actually not a belief system, but it's actually a tactic. And if you're interested in apologetics and debates between atheism and God and atheism, etc., then you really need to grasp that agnosticism is more of a tactic. Now, I'm going to give Matt some props on this before. He's got another tactic that he uses, that he is cool, calm, and collected. And because he's so cool, calm, and collected and just asks these very, upsetting questions, it makes him appear that he is winning the debate. And so if you can actually see that tactic that he uses, because the other people are really intent on I want to win this debate, but, considering that they're coming from a different angle and he's so cool, calm, and collected and he seems to arouse them, it looks like they're losing. So he uses these kind of tactics. Well, along with that, if you will understand that I don't know in and of itself is a tactic, it's actually a very childish tactic. And here's what I mean by that. You remember playing as a child and you call somebody a fathead, hey, fathead, and they go, oh, I know you are, but what am I? And you're like, well, loser, I know you are, but what am I? Butt kisser, I know you are, but what am I? That is pretty much the approach that agnostics take, because it doesn't matter what you present to them. They're always going to say, I just don't know. And in fact, when you begin to look at this really, really deeply, it's really, really childish. It is actually stating that it's actually a pretend that what they will back up to is that I am actually weighing this evidence. And I don't see enough clear evidence to make a decision one way or another. We actually need more evidence to come in before I can make an authoritative position. And so I'm going to reserve myself right now to say, I don't know. And so basically what they have stated is that anybody who has ever decided atheism or God in the past millennia are idiots for making a decision, because that you really don't have enough information to make a decision on. But if they were uncertain that they had enough evidence to make a decision, how are they not uncertain they don't have enough evidence to make a position or a propositional truth claim? You really need to see how silly all this is. Now, actually, what they have done is prepackaged a reality. The reality is there is right and wrong. How we know that is if you ask somebody, is there a right and wrong, they can agree with it or they can disagree with it and say, no, there's not a right and wrong. But that becomes their right proposition. And if they say there is no right and wrong, that's the right proposition. And to say there's right and wrong becomes their wrong proposition. So we know that there is actually truth and foundational propositional ideas that undergird the foundations of our reality. But along with that, we also know that we have to take so much on faith. And that is kind of what the skeptical empiricist is saying. But they have to put it in different terms, because if they say, well, I live by faith because I really don't know, then that would really kind of put them in the same category with the people they are arguing with. See, Christians will already state, hey, we have to make steps of faith. We have to live by faith. Logic is by faith. Memory is by faith. Trusting my senses is by faith. Trusting the information of science is by faith. Trusting a scientist is by faith. Trusting math is by faith. And anybody that has really dove into that and like, no, I can test all those things. No, you can't test everything down to the point where you are not living by faith in major categories. It is impossible. You don't have enough time to do that. And so we have to live by faith. But a skeptical empiricist doesn't want to step up and tell you that they're living, in an uncertainty on certain things and they have to live by faith, because that would make them appear like the Christian. Now, if you can actually get them to be truthful and that they are living by faith, they're like, well, we've got more on our side to live by faith in a physical only universe than the Christians do. That's not true. Christianity has a flood of evidence. One of the things that Matt Dillahunty has said is that, science is the best thing that's ever come along, to guide and take mankind to wherever, it is a testable, it is our best method, etc., except that it's not. It's really young. It's a really young method. And on top of that, Christianity has history, long periods of history mapped out, and archaeology that undergird and support it. On top of that, if you take the best scientific work and try to compare it against, let's say, the uniqueness of the Bible, there's no comparison between the two. The Bible is a world-changing book, a timeless book, a most translated book, a most sold ever book for a reason. And it's because of the unique propositions that are in it that school any science book in particular and all science books together. Along with this, the Bible also presents practical truthfulness. If we have to live by faith, then the Bible makes some propositions on how human beings can live, but like Matt, science is the best thing ever to live by. However, it really doesn't tell us anything about mankind. And it can't, as philosophers often tell you, but the Bible does. Also, inherent in Christianity and the Bible and believing in God is the undergirding truth system. The undergirding truth system. You start with the proposition that everybody is and should tell the truth, then you're watching out, for lies and deception. With science, it's like we just trust people, but we trust them without truth propositions. There is no belief system in science that says that they have to tell the truth. Now, the caveat is, it's testable and there's peer review and peer research, etc. In this day and age, you actually have the access to go and find out that that's not as true as they want to make it out to be. Because if you're working on your own line of research, how do you really have time to go double check everybody else? And if you will really dig in, people like Christopher Hitchens will actually tell you that you have to trust people in those fields, which gets us to living back to faith. But you've got faith in a scientific system that doesn't say you have to tell the truth, and it's becoming evident that a lot of them do not. Or you can trust in the Christian system that says you have to tell the truth, and there are very severe consequences for not telling the truth. Also, we have the guidance of the Holy Spirit, the presence of the Holy Spirit to help guide us through our faith understanding. There's things that we don't understand, but the Holy Spirit will step in like, hey, you need to go this direction. You need to go see this person today. You need to go get involved in this event. And you don't know why, but you proceed by faith, just like the empirical skepticism might go to the bar by faith. But you have the guidance of the Holy Spirit and not just yourself. Also, with this, we know about the backdrop of morality. Morality undergirds, the idea of morality is undergirded and entangles itself very clearly. When I say entangles, let's just say enwraps. We could even say hugs Christianity. They work together seamlessly to those that are willing to study the ins and outs of it. And also with this, just the positive emotions that Christianity brings and wells up into the soul. If I got to live by faith, I want to live in the positive emotions. Now, the atheists are going to tell you, I got positive emotions too, and it's going to be maybe not everything, but in so many ways, sins that Christianity shies away from. Yes, those sins bring some short-term positive emotions, which the Bible actually says, it will bring some short-term positive emotions. But in the long term, we see that it brings pain and disaster, and all one has to do is step back and watch the figure for a few years, and this is true. Also, one of Matt's huge debates, or one of the things that he says, and I've heard Christopher Hitchens say it, and I don't know who gets the credit for saying this first, but one of the things they employ often is like, we don't really need Christianity. I mean, what in the world can a Christian do that I can't do? Well, that's a simple one. Step on your pride. Get your pride out of the way. They can't do that. They can present themselves as humble, but it's a presentation so that you will lift them up and be proud of them. And so they can relish in it. Well, you just asked. So I would say, what can't you do that a Christian can do? A Christian can set his pride aside and be stepped on and slaughtered and persecuted and suffer for ultimate truth and the presentation of the gospel message. But on top of this is obfuscation. It is a smokescreen to say, well, what can a Christian do that an atheist can't do or might not be able to do better? That's actually an attempt at theft. Because in that statement, you're hiding the fact that Christianity actually brought all of those concepts to the table to begin with. If you want to copycat that, at least don't be a plagiarist about it.